Samuel Ramani is Associate Fellow at the RUSI think tank and CEO of Pangea Geopolitical Risk. Samuel, welcome back. So we're hearing mixed signals. Iranian officials suggesting talks are progressing. Poland's Prime Minister urging citizens to leave the region. How do you assess where we are? What happens next? What are you hearing?
Well, we're really hearing mixed signals, right? We're seeing the U.S. and even Abbas Araghchi, the Iranian foreign minister, discussing that these rounds of talks have been more constructive. But obviously, the uranium enrichment and the ballistic missile limitation red lines on Iran's side still remain, and the U.S. disapproves of that. I think that Donald Tusk is potentially preparing Polish citizens and encouraging other NATO allies to follow suit, in part because he believes that there's at least some risk of at least limited military strikes, like we saw in June of 2025, maybe on a more sustained basis than that. It's possible that this is a repetition of what we've seen in terms of evacuation warnings before, like the 2003 Iraq War, 2021 in Afghanistan when the Taliban was coming. But I also think that this is just precautionary because of Iran's history of arresting Western nationals and detaining them arbitrarily, and also the challenges associated with evacuations, especially with a non-cooperative government like Iran towards the West.
President Trump has a history, of course, of using rhetoric and threats as leverage in negotiations. I mean, do you see this as a credible military escalation that's loaded and ready to go, or is it simply a bargaining tactic designed to pressure Iran into a deal?
Well, exactly. I do think that this could be a bargaining tactic. It certainly fits his MO to use escalations as basically a way to kind of create leverage ahead of talks. For example, he withdrew from the JCPOA in 2018, and then over the next couple of years, periodically explored the idea of pursuing negotiations with Iran while other U.S. allies established back channels like the United Arab Emirates. Then there was the Soleimani strike in 2020 that was aimed at really upping the stakes, and many people thought that was going to lead to a large-scale war, and it didn't. Same thing happened in June of 2025, major U.S. involvement followed by no war. So I think this is possible that there could be a leverage-building thing here, but equally, when I speak to others in the region, there are parallels that are being drawn towards what happened in Venezuela also, where Nicolas Maduro, just 24 hours before he was captured, was reaching out to the United States for talks. The U.S. was entertaining it, only for hours later him to be captured and for there to be a sea change in Venezuela. So I think that there's growing concern within the Gulf region and also within Tehran that it's the latter option this time, that this escalation is going to lead to something much more sustained or longer term. Whether it's full-scale regime change, unknown, but something longer term, and it's not just a leverage-building exercise.
What should we read into the timing of all of this?
Well, I think that the timing of all of this reflects a clear erosion of U.S.-Iran ability to cooperate. I mean, we saw the JCPOA be completely unraveled in the fall of last year, and that was not just the U.S. doing that, but that was also the E3 countries. We've seen the French, the Germans, the British basically also suspend that. We've seen Iran draw much closer in terms of its security partnerships with Russia, beyond the exchange of drones towards a comprehensive strategic partnership. And also, and these moves suggest that Iran is really not expecting much of a breakthrough from the West, is maintaining its hard lines. And then there was the human rights chasm over Iran's repression of the protesters. So with all of those things, we're looking at a situation where there's pretty much intractable divisions and mistrust between the U.S. and the West and Iran more broadly, and that doesn't point in a good direction for those who want peace. Regional actors, with Israel accepted though, the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Qataris, really don't want this to escalate to a full-scale war. Why? Because they're worried about central authority in Iran splitting up, Iran maybe even having a civil war. And even though they don't like the Islamic Republic for the most part, they see its retention as at least stable and predictable compared to the alternatives. So Israel might be pushing Trump in an escalation direction, but the Saudis, the Emiratis, and the Qataris are pushing Trump in the direction of restraint. The big question is, who does he listen to?
Samuel Ramani, thanks for coming on the program again. Samuel Ramani, Associate Fellow at RUSI.